just because I Welcome, everyone. Being 5 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to remind everyone we're on Treaty 6 land, the home of the Métis, and I'll ask everyone to rise and the city clerk to say the prayer.
O God, let us each in our own way ask your wisdom and guidance in our deliberations. Help us to incorporate into all our decisions those values which will enable us to fulfill our mission, to act as responsible stewards, and to respect and value the cultural and spiritual traditions of all citizens of the city of Prince Albert. For this we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, I'm going to move on. How come I have council 3 on here? Do you see your light somewhere?
Yeah, Councillor. Oh, it's Councillor Head. It just says Council 3. I don't know.
Oh.
Head? Sorry, it should say Councillor Head.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the agenda for this meeting be approved as presented and that the presentations, delegations, and speakers listed on the agenda be heard when called forward by the Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder. Oh God, it says all the boards. Okay, you're going to have to be patient with me. It's not showing up correctly quite on the screen. Go ahead, Councillor
I'll
Kilmer.
second that.
Thank you. Good one. Okay, I'll prompt the question. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, declaration of conflict of interest. If you have any, you have to declare them at the time and give it written permission to the clerk. Number 5, adoption of the minutes. Councillor Miller.
That the agenda for this meeting be approved as presented and presentations, delegations. Oh, sorry. That the minutes of the council meeting held November 29, 2021 be taken, read, and adopted.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Okay, it didn't give me any of the things. Did you notice that?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I did. Just a second here.
Here we go.
Because I don't think it's set up on a rate meeting.
Oh, sorry. I'll do this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the question is now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, yeah, and then the names went right. Okay, notice of proclamations, there was none. Presentations, there was none. Public hearings, there is none. Delegations, 9.1, we have Dr. Shakani to make a presentation for us. Now, how do I prompt that? There we go. Grant the floor. Welcome, and she'll put your presentation up.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council.
There you go, sir. Sorry for the delay.
No, that is okay. It's exciting. Gives me a chance to take a deep breath. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the honor to make this presentation and bring us up to date as to what is happening. And much has happened since the last time. So just to quickly go over what is the situation here in Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, let me say fortunately, we've been really great that over the last 7 days up until December 9th, Saskatchewan has now at least become the 7th highest in new case rates as opposed to being right at the top. And this is good. Unfortunately, despite us coming down, we still are seeing that there's pockets within the province, and it is very disturbing. Unfortunately, we do see, and I'll be very open and say that we have essentially identified these areas. The lower socioeconomic status areas within Saskatoon and Regina, and then these 4 particular areas of Rosthern, Carlisle, Water, and Kipling, where unfortunately the case rates there throw the achievements that we've been making out of whack. When we look at our COVID-19 deaths, we have only come down from number 1 to number 2 amongst all the provinces. We trail just behind Manitoba, but we are ahead of our colleagues to the west. When we look in terms of vaccination coverage, and this is really important, vaccination coverage and hospitalization, we are seeing that there are areas within the province where there's low immunization coverage, and unfortunately, they've got high hospitalization rates. And so this is concerning, and we've been very open in saying that these are the areas that we have there. There are 10 of them. And unfortunately, Prince Albert does fall amongst those. When we look at the vaccine uptake, we're very happy that we are up at 70%, but that is still far away from the 85% that we need as a population to have herd immunity. I draw your attention to the map on the right, and let's not worry about the first dose. Anyone goes to get the first dose. It's getting the second dose so that you have the immunity. And there we've got a few red areas, and we have one which neighbors near us. So everyone wants to know what's happening to Omicron. Omicron is our wonderful, wonderful new neighbor. I think the cartoon there does state what we are dealing with. And unfortunately, there's 2 little clips that I've taken out. One is the one on the left. It lets us know that it's still early to know what's going on. But at the same time, there's stuff that we know that happens. In particular, the little chart on the left-hand side shows that when you don't have reinfection, okay, then you have people who are previously infected and they will become okay. It's what happens on the right-hand side of the little hand-drawn chart, which is what Omicron does. It not only causes reinfection, but the infection itself is one that is not cleared. And that is a problem with Omicron. It may be mild at the beginning and for the first time, but as they do know in South Africa and UK, and that is the dialogue I've given there on the right-hand side. For those of you who may know, the UK has started reporting its first death from Omicron today, which is 14 days from when it started. So essentially, we know what kind of timelines we have. There is a comparison of what's happening in UK with what's in South Africa. In South Africa, they've got a younger population, they've got lower vaccination rates, which unfortunately is a factor. And we are seeing it when we're still only at 70%. We do have the younger population. We've had higher prior infection rates. And so we had a great summer, which unfortunately COVID exploited. And we fortunately haven't gotten to the state where our admissions are doubling every 5 days. Right now, they're kind of doubling at around 10 days. But it's concerning that even though our numbers have come down, last week, we only had 10 admissions, okay, per day. This week, we're at 24. That's a doubling. And it has taken about 10 days. That is a concern. The UK, unfortunately, is doubling at every 3 days. And that is really concerning because we do follow the UK very closely. Are we able to sustain that? That is a question. You hear a lot of talking about the RT, the ability to replicate. And as you see, the red line shows Omicron. So in South Africa, they're showing Omicron is replicating at 3.8. Unfortunately, the UK, which we follow quite closely, is replicating at twice that, which is 6.2. We fall in between. Are we going to see those numbers? We don't know. Would we like to see those numbers? Definitely not. And what we would need to do is, what is it that we have to do now? What is it that we've been doing the last 20 months that we need to hunker down on and keep doing? On this next slide is just a number of items that came out at a meeting of the British team that provides emergency response. And when you do have a chance, I do ask that you just go over those, which we have covered ourselves. But over here, in this slide, I do show that what is the problem. And what the UK has done is they've moved to Plan B. In particular, you've seen the spike that they're now recently having. When we look at what's happening in PA, I think we will see something similar. The UK has made that move. Despite that move, they have now started to see the results of what Omicron can do. In other words, how we can end up with fatalities if we aren't careful. So, to the exciting place, our good old wonderful home, PA. Everybody knows where PA is, and hopefully won't get lost. But here, this is the important one, the first of two. In this particular slide, we're showing what we are seeing, the virus in the wastewater, which is in the chart. It's showing the regular COVID virus is the black line. The red line is the variant, the Delta variant. And we have seen that it has gone up and down. And as of last week, we had decreased by just over 83%. That was last week. The green bars are the numbers of cases. And you can see how when we try to match each peak in the virus in the wastewater with the peak in the cases, it's around a 7 to 10 day period. We can see that these, as they're getting towards the end, are a bit troubling. Great that they're coming down. But with the results for today, unfortunately, we are recording a 900% increase. And that is reflected there at the bottom. That is a concern. Does that mean there'll be a spike? Our hope is, and unfortunately I hadn't had the time to put the cases against this, but in the previous slide, you can see where those cases have started to increase after we pulled it from the wastewater results. We can see that peaking is starting. And with this 900% increase, which we do anticipate is going to occur anything in 7 to 14 days, are we ready to deal with it? That is the million-dollar question, and I'm hoping that Mayor and Council will be able to maybe hunker down as we have to face this. And unfortunately, it's at a time when we're meant to be in a festive period and Santa is meant to be coming. This slide shows how we've been seeing our cases. The large peak you see there is what we were seeing when we saw the big peak earlier in September of only 400%. So 400% in the rise in the wastewater gave us that size peak. A 900% rise, I'm not sure how big a peak it's going to be. But that will be dependent upon what are the mitigating factors, mitigating measures we put in place. When we look at the way we've been having cases around here, the yellow line is essentially our south of PA, that's the Ruston and that area. The dark line is, of course, within the city of PA, and the bluish one is the Shellbrook area. So you can see that we are fairly okay, except for this outlier that keeps occurring out of Ruston. As to why they're still having the higher case rate and yet their average numbers are below the threshold is something that we are looking into, and we're hoping we can have some answers before the end of this week. In the next slide, again, we are looking at the testing rate, and this is unfortunate because when people are getting or feeling unwell, they're not going to get tested. And if they are testing, most of them are using that home test and are not reporting what their results are to anybody. So long as they do it in the home, they don't share it outside the home, and that's unfortunate. On the right-hand side, it shows how for those that do come out, we're seeing still that high positivity. And that is a concern because then it means that the virus is still circulating within the community. Here we're looking at our coverage rates for vaccine. And this, of course, we do see the impact on the yellow line, which is the first dose. Towards that end, we see the impact our 5 to 11-year-olds have done. It's caused a blip, which we're very proud of. That we are now at just over 37% of our children eligible in 5 to 11 within the PA area have been vaccinated.
37, that's good.
We are hoping that this, and these are actual numbers that I have from November 5th, and so it is something. The challenge has been that when there was the requirement of the parents having to be with the kids, that of course did impact it. And now that any adult can be there, that hopefully will bring it back up again. Our biggest challenge and our aim was that we wanted within the PA area to do 75%. We still can. We still got a week or two before Christmas. I still do believe we will be able to reach that. We will. I do believe parents will agree with us, especially as it is really beneficial when you have the kids vaccinated. If you're deciding on going on a hot holiday, it does add more comfort. When we are now looking at our coverage rates in our population, you can see within the areas that do surround us and do make up the area, PA itself is still only at 75%. We have still not reached our herd immunity, which is 85%. Our neighbors, whether it is Big River, which is down at 50%, or rural PA, which is north, Meath Park, Candle Lake, that area is down at 45%. That is a concern. Our big issue is how do we get those who are lagging behind to catch up with us? Why is that important? Because now that we have Omicron on the scene, that is what Omicron is going to feast on. And when Omicron gets itself and adds itself into that mixture, it impacts negatively on those achievements that we have achieved, like those whom we're getting at 75% and more. When we're looking at our cases who have gotten ill and their vaccination status, the dark green is those who have been vaccinated and have become positive. We do see a little blip there. Yes, that was acceptable within the whole area, but the nice green on top was all the unvaccinated people. That has come down. But now we are seeing, unfortunately, that the numbers of those who are vaccinated who are getting positive is starting to increase, up to as high as 37%. And this is because of that unvaccinated group above, who are providing a medium and an ability for the virus to multiply and then go back and infect and challenge that person who has been vaccinated. When we look at our cases by vaccination status by month, we're seeing now in December, it is already up as high as 40% as of last week. And that is concerning. This week, I am hoping that the numbers are not any higher. Unfortunately, with the outbreaks that we've been having in some of the schools associated with people going and having a home test, not revealing it, and still going out to events and etc., and then spreading it around there is starting to have a telling impact. When we look at our recent cases by age group, again, we can see that it is increasing, and we do know that less than 19-year-olds, since November the 1st, make up 43% of all the cases we're getting. Today, sadly, it has gone up now. It is at 46% as of midday today, so that is not good. The total numbers may be low, but the makeup of those cases is the problem. In summary, we do know that there is already a plateau in the province. It's great, it's good, but it's a very high level that we're plateauing at instead of a low level. There is increased case activity, as I did mention, in those 4 areas. We have identified our first cases of Omicron. These are people who have traveled from internationally, not necessarily to the areas that are listed on there, and that is the concern, that it is not those places listed on the Health Canada or Public Health Agency of Canada website. There are places that are not on that list, and that is a concern. The other challenge we're facing is, of course, our critical care. Because our hospitalization and occupancy rates are still remaining as high as they are, being the highest in the country, that's still a stress. Even though we're plateauing, absolute numbers may be coming down, but we're starting from a higher level where just a minor impact, a minor increase in cases will flip the system over. And that is something which I don't know if we're able to sustain. Regarding immunization, again, we're seeing a plateau there right now, and it is increasing now that we have our 5 and 11-year-olds are now coming. We are at 70%. We have already 37% of these children between the ages of 5 and 11 have already got their 5 doses. What is going to be our challenges as we review about the 8 weeks for their second dose? It is ideal, but in reality, we may look at what we have done with the booster dose, of where we have moved it from 6 months down to 5 months in order to get a better bang for our buck. We have seen that when we have at least 58% who are more than 6 months from their second dose, we need to get them And the only way we can get that bigger pool is by increasing the eligibility for the booster doses. And so as you see here, we have increased it. Those above the age of 50 who is at least 5 months from their second dose. And then we've got all these other areas, the immunocompromised, our correctional institutions. We have our children who have diabetes, who are born in 2009 or earlier, they include, and then we have our First Nations on reserve who are over 18, and the far north who are over 18 have also been included. We are hoping over these next few days, there will be further decrease in the eligible age from 50 down to 40, and maybe even opening for everyone. Omicron is going to be a real driver, and unfortunately, because we know that there's increased transmissibility, we know that there is vaccine escape, we know that there is reinfection that occurs with Omicron. And lastly, one key thing about Omicron is that it loves our pediatric population. It can begin with them having mild, and very quickly, as they have seen in the UK, within 14 days, it'll be turning to severe in that population. It's very difficult to have to explain to parents when their child who was running around in the morning is now in the afternoon in the emergency room, and we have to ask them that we have to intubate the child. And that is what we're going to be seeing more and more. And intubated, yes, intubated for 3 to 5 days is going to be very stressful. And I don't think any parent really wants to be sitting there seeing their child in that situation. What also has coming more and more is what we're calling long COVID. Our pediatric population, unfortunately, suffers more, and there will be more information that we will be providing on this later this week, as we do know it does impact. What is really troubling us now that we've found Omicron is the competition between Omicron and Delta. We think is going to be very interesting and really challenging. Delta is the older person, maybe a little more wiser. The Omicron is the young, gung-ho person who feels they own the world. And that's the way they do behave. Omicron has got at least 30 mutations on its spike protein. That's 30 more than what Delta has. Thus, you will see reinfection, but the amount of reinfection will be impacted by the numbers of people vaccinated and the numbers of people that have gotten their booster doses. That is where we talk about transmissibility. Omicron is twice as transmissible as Delta. It will cause reinfection. Normally a virus does not. Omicron does. And knowing that this guy is here, this is what we have been doing of vaccinating, always wearing a mask. If you are able to be outdoors, but if you're indoors, at least have some ventilation. Avoid large gatherings. And of course, physical distancing. If you can put those together, just as it is here, and if you are eligible, so in other words, anybody who is the age of 5 on the day that they go for vaccination and above should get their first shot. Delaying it is putting not just yourself at risk, but everybody else who you care about will be at risk. On our part, we are going to be doing as best as we can to continue tracing contacts as much as possible. This has made us have to step up our game and find out how people have picked it up, where they've picked it up. We want people to use more of those rapid antigen tests that are there, because this does let you know where the smoke is when there's a fire. You don't have to wait for the fire. The smoke is there, your rapid antigen test is positive. Please, 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 that is a a warning sign. Go and get the next level test, which is your PCR. And while you're waiting to do that, make sure you're keeping isolated. Yes, we do know there is influenza going around. We've already started picking up influenza right now. There are other respiratory viruses like the distant relatives to COVID. There's a corona C43 and there's corona OL25, which are common cold ones. But unfortunately, when they start to have their party, COVID would like to join and often will come along with Omicron. If you're not feeling well, no matter what it is, please isolate. And lastly, as we do know that now we are picking up COVID-19 in our white-tailed deer, that is a concern because there is already chronic wasting disease as well. We do know that that does require us to be vigilant. And so all that I can ask is that we remember to be safe. And bless you all and a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Yeah. I would say very good at presentation, but it's the facts. So thank you for coming forward. And we will encourage people, especially with Christmas coming, to keep our gatherings low and make sure. I'm one of the few people that you're more than welcome to come visit at Christmas, but you're going to show me that you're vaccinated. And people say, you do that at home? I said, well, because the charts show that the majority of evacuations are still in households. So it's up to us to be cautious. So we do have some questions, and I'll go, and then I come back I have one question. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you so much for the presentation. Information that we all need, and I appreciate that it's being shared in the community. I do have a couple of questions that have come to me from residents, but before I get to that question, hospitalization rate. We don't seem to hear about people who are infected that end up in hospital. What percentage are people that were vaccinated or unvaccinated? You know, that it seems that information would really help people put the two things together, maybe. So I have yet to hear the rate of hospitalization in any of the numbers.
And thank you for that. It was on one of the slides. I did show the vaccination rates with hospitalizations, and I actually went to the extent of putting it on a weekly basis, so you can actually see. And in that slide, I do show at the end the last dates that I have. There is an update we will be providing again, which does show that we have, and I did mention it, we had reached 40%. And that is a concern. Mm-hmm. When it is 40% of the cases are fully vaccinated. And what is worrying is now when we've, with the 5 to 11s, we have now another group who have not been fully vaccinated. And that has increased because now we've got the pediatric population who we are now able to count. And then there's the third group of the unvaccinated. When we look at those entire whole 3 different groups, it is unfortunate that again now we are seeing that 36% of them are below the age of 19. And that's where the worry comes. We only have 0.2% of those below the age of 12 who have already received a second dose. It's because of their comorbidities, so they were started earlier and are there, but that's really small. What we need is now the protective layer by the others to help.
Okay, thank you for that. Here's the question from the resident. There's conflicting information from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization and the Biotech
Yes,
for recommending the time between the two doses.
yes,
One is 21 days and the
Yes.
other is saying 8 weeks.
yes.
So this person is looking for clarification on
Clarification.
which
one to choose?
which one should she be following?
Yes. I also did mention that on the slide as well,
I saw the
ma'am.
8 weeks.
And so the manufacturer, Pfizer, their data is based upon a 21 days. Okay. They have monitored for a period beyond 21 days and have found that the mean time, so when you have 100 people,
Okay.
50 of them will have the best response when they get their second dose at 8 weeks. Does that mean you can't have it before 8 weeks? No, you can. Right? And so with Omicron now, which is an added pressure, there would be more interest to have it before 8 weeks. In the same way as we moved the booster from 6 months to 5 months. In the same way, there will be that option. So it essentially will be 3 weeks, 3 to 8 weeks will be the range.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at you. At the bottom. Thank you, Councillor. Go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Dr. Chokani, for the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
How many other communities are receiving a presentation similar to this one? Maybe not from you, but from other doctors.
In the province, I would say maybe 10 other communities.
Yeah.
It's
So
sad.
this to me is the problem. So here we are, the municipalities, the larger cities, the city of Saskatoon, the city of Regina, the city of Prince Albert, we're implementing what we're told and what we're asked to implement. But in the meantime, all of these other towns and villages aren't. So how are we ever going to get there if we're not reaching out to them and saying, we need to get this presentation into your council, into your government level, and have their people put some pressure on the residents and saying, listen, we need your help. Because right now, the municipalities are getting beat up, the larger cities. We're getting beat on by residents across the province. Oh, look, they're the only ones doing it. We must be the fools. And I know it's not your fault. But we can implement something that says you can't go into our rink and you can drive 10 minutes out of town and just no issues.
Yes.
That's a big problem. And we're never going to beat this if it doesn't spread. So I don't know what we can do. I don't know what the SHA can do. I don't know whether our provincial government, what they should be doing. I don't have these answers. For God's sakes, I never thought I'd be voting on anything to do with a virus when I possibly became a politician. But to me, this is very concerning. So here we are again. We're asked. I don't know what you're asking for policies. We never really heard the recommendations, but the surrounding communities got to get on board because we're looking like the bad guy here, and we're just trying to help get over this damn virus. So I don't know what the answer is. Do you have any suggestions on how we can get the word out? I looked at some of the small town areas that you said. It's small town, it's pockets, and then you showed another map, a lot down south. Well, oh my goodness. I don't know what the answer is. Do you have anything that you could comment on, how we can encourage these guys to get on board, whatever we have to do?
Since the beginning of the pandemic, from my office, we have reached out to all the municipalities, every single one, and even some other community organizations. It is unfortunate the uptake has been poor,
Yes.
to say the least. And in some cases, it's painful. It takes more than one death in that community to rustle up a response. Unfortunately, that's only been adults. My concern is, why do we have to wait until children start dying in those communities before they respond? And if we do continue at this rate, it's not to say they will die. Why do we have to wait then? It's them having to be sitting, looking after their sick ones. And it's not right. Others, there's experience more than enough around us on what happens when you don't do it. I applaud Mayor and all the councillors for taking that position on the proof of vaccination, because it has helped us. The cases, majority we see, are actually from outside the immediate, and it is interesting that none of the facilities at all, none, zero, have, ever since the implementation, have been reported as either being a place where there has been possible transmission, nor has it been one that has been implicated. And that speaks volumes.
So we have.
It works.
Two media in the gallery here. I really hope that that point was caught, that there is some success of what we're doing. And I really think that that should be put out.
Yes.
More so, and said, this is the positive statistic. This is why you've implemented this. Instead of people sending us emails and you're the bad guy and you're affecting the kids. And I get it. But my goodness, if those statistics come out, it's important. And I just have grave concerns that if the SHA can't get into these small communities or into the rural, are we ever going to see the end of this? Like, do we see an end of this? Is there some countries that are controlling this better than Canada?
It's hard to say. There are some difficult decisions that may have to be made, but as I always have said, it's better to swallow the pill, the bitter pill now, than have to go for emergency surgery. And really, we've got to be willing to swallow that pill. I ask and I said, we've been through this for the last 20 months. Now is not the time to say, oh, well, we can relax. No. Our wastewater results are a warning. They lag behind by 7 to 10 days, and we are seeing the numbers starting to appear. Will our system be able to take it? No. You can imagine how many people are going to be impacted if they've been, as part of the reopening, they're slated for their surgeries, operations, different activities. That will now have to be put off. Why? Because you've got more people now suddenly occupying those beds, impacting those staff as well. It's not necessarily that people will get sick from COVID. It's the other things too, which have to be put aside in order for us to make it safe.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
I know that this council, this body has listened to your presentations and listened to your recommendations. Is the provincial government listening to the SHA's recommendations?
No, you can't answer that. I'll interfere. You can't answer that.
I can't answer. It's above my pay grade.
I got my answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, yeah. Okay, so I have some comments. And when I tell my friends this, that are vaccinated, they said it should be a tool that the SHA should be using because this infuriates them, okay? You know, we talk about the poor person that's not vaccinated and gets COVID and goes to the hospital, okay? That was their choice. The ones I want to talk to is the 38,000 that are now on the surgical waiting list. And I'm not going to ask you for the answer to this question because I'm asking the province on how many of those people have died waiting for that surgery because our hospital is full of unvaccinated people. Those are the people that should be, and that's why I have no problem holding them accountable, because I see the big picture. They just see their own little picture, their own little world. And that's what's causing them not to get vaccinated, and that's why you got hotspots. And I knew the areas right off the bat. And so my friends want to know, why are we not publishing these facts more because they're facts, that we now are at 38,000. And what worries me about the surgeries is we have exhausted our nurses, our medical workers, our doctors are exhausted with COVID. And once we come out of COVID, they've got to deal with this monster of a waiting list that people are suffering because people have chosen not to get vaccinated. And then the ones that I really reach out to, the ones that have passed away, that could have been helped if those beds and ventilators were ready. And so that's why I have no patience for anti-vaxxers, and they know it. And that's what frustrates me. So I wish the Saskatchewan Health Authority would release these figures as well, because that's important for the general population to know what the minority is doing. And the problem in our province is we have a noisy minority and a silent majority. And so it's time that we go after the majority and say, look at majority. The minority has held up 38,000 people from getting health treatment that they need. And I don't know how many deaths they are. I've already asked Regina for that question. And look at the people that have died waiting for these. And so that's the part that frightens me. Now, my question is, I have one question is, I had some parents say that we have added to our program that all the kids to enter our facilities have to be vaccinated by February 28th. Some parents have said that timeline's a little short because the program's rolling out. But now that I've heard you say that 37% is vaccinated by now, and your goal is
85% minimum, absolute.
Yes. So should we hold to that date? Is that a reasonable time that the health authority can get people vaccinated?
I think it is reasonable.
Good.
We should not waver because Omicron, COVID, slips through the cracks. You give it a chance, it will make it home. We shouldn't. We've shown that in the last 20 months. Where you have had those things in place, you're not seeing the cases. Where you said, oh no, yeah, they don't have to wear a mask, no, they can still go and play that sport. We're getting cases from there. So,
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Any other questions? Okay, you had your chance. You were going to push. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you for education. And I wish, my Christmas and New Year's wish is that your goals are reached. Because if our goals are reached, then we can have a normal year. We're not going to have a normal year in 22 if we don't start, clamping down even harder, especially with this variant. And I heard a show this morning that if we don't, we could get another variant. Mm-hmm. And so it's time that we get on board and try to stomp this out. So thank you very much for coming and be safe.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
You're welcome. Shut myself off too. Okay. So we don't need a motion for this, do we? No. No motion. It was just information. Okay, so we're going to move to the next delegation, which is from Perry Logan, the Executive Director of the Canadian National Fireworks Association, and he's joining us by Teams. No?
Hello,
No?
good evening.
Oh, sorry. Fire
How
hydrant.
are you?
Oops, sorry. I missed the fire hydrants. We can go back? Okay, we've got him on. Sorry, Chief. You're here.
I have no problem waiting if you want to go back. Do you want to, I'll leave it up to you.
No, you've been on there for a while, sir. Go ahead and we can jump back to you.
All right, thank you. So my name is Perry Logan. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian National. And I work on behalf of the fireworks industry, education, and more education. To date, for the last 2 years, we've worked with over 60 municipalities, and one of our hopes is obviously that we work with,
Oh, that's his side?
like I said, our
We don't know, it's not working. He stopped talking, so he must realize it's not working. You know that your system's lagging? I've noticed you've stopped speaking, so you must have realized that there's something wrong. Oh, now you froze. Okay, you're back with us.
Is that better? I apologize, I'm not sure. What can I do on this end?
Okay, we'll try and then we'll see if you freeze up again.
Okay, I apologize, sorry. So, to sort of CFP's approach, and what we believe is best, is a solution to any kind of overusage of fire. I'd read the bylaw that's been presented by.
Sir, could I just ask you to take your video off and we'll just listen to you? That may help you.
All right. Is that better?
Yeah, so far, let's go.
All right, let's go, yeah. All right, so again, the CNFA, our focus at the point of sale. We work with municipalities all across Canada, and we're hoping to obviously work with Prince Albert on their bylaw. I wish I'd had a chance to speak to Fire Chief Olson prior to submitting his report. He would have understood that the CNFA, us, were a great resource to help create measures that will help minimize the use of overuse. During COVID-19, another topic, here we go. Firework use has increased dramatically across Canada, and so that's helped us to increase our efforts to try to facilitate solutions. Like most staff reports that I've read, the source of your problem is not identified, nor is there a deliverable solution. The solution is not really and they are the concern, and they need to be the focus, and that's what we try to alleviate with the people that use fireworks in our country, enjoy them safely and as regulated. Unfortunately, it's the 1% that's why we're here. These people don't respect the rules, they don't respect their community, and we just try to do what we can to help alleviate that. Under the Federal Explosives Act, enforcement in Prince Albert is already available. If the tools are already available for delinquent use, underage usage, in park usage, they're already illegal. Storage and display retail locations are strictly enforced. What's not a requirement is better education for training or staff and selling consumer fireworks. And the CNFA is with you and wants to help make this a priority. Banning the use of an illegal product, or illegal product, pardon me, has never been the solution and has not worked anywhere. There's just too high of demand for the product and people enjoy it. There's also the cultural inclusion and people's wants to celebrate holidays, and they usually involve fireworks. Here we go. The CNFA, we've created a vendor certification employee training program that's available online and is free of charge to anyone working within the fireworks industry. It helps people understand the regulations and, more importantly, helps them understand the penalties for non-compliance. We've also created what we call a Good Neighbor program that is an information handout specific to your community and the federal safety requirements. The federal requirements of safety are already a legal requirement to be distributed at every sale, and we've added local bylaw requirements and provincial legislation so that people can no longer say that they didn't know. In closing, the CNFA recommends that Prince Albert choose specific holidays and allow the discharge between a time A and B. Allow the fireworks to be used on specific holidays. Make education a requirement for anyone selling retail fireworks in your community. put some of the enforcement regulations and requirements back on the industry. Things that you should consider when you're considering this report is the dramatic increase, like I said, across the country. Sales have doubled and tripled in the communities. And our goal is to let the industry help enjoy fireworks safely and in a respectful manner. Make education a requirement, as I keep saying, and let us train your people in your communities so they can become better stewards of our industry. And with that, I will end and say thank you.
Thank
And
you,
I
sir.
apologize for the technical stuff.
No problem. Once we got the video down, you turned out pretty good with the volume, with the audio, so thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Logan, for presenting on our bylaws. I know, or you may not know, we're asking to do a complete ban on these bylaws, and I guess you mentioned that sales have doubled since in those cities that have made that ban. You also mentioned a little bit about the Good Neighbor program. Can you speak a little bit about that one a little bit more as well?
Yeah, in regards to the ban, I live in a community, I live in Airdrie, Alberta, and fireworks are completely banned here, yet they sell $500,000 a year or more annually to people that buy them online, go into the community. I mean, they're a legal product, so they're easy to access. Based on high usage in Toronto this past summer, May long weekend in Canada Day, we worked with the City of Toronto and with other communities, but primarily there. And we created a Be a Good Neighbor program that we engaged the industry. So anybody buying fireworks was given this pamphlet that explains both the federal regulations, so like where you can't use the product, as well as specific to Toronto. In their case, on the waterfront. They don't want fireworks, it's illegal. That was a big issue. And the success rate was hard to measure because it's too early, but I can say that I had 8 emails from people in Toronto that got the pamphlet, read the rules, then determined that they weren't allowed to use them at the lake, and they assumed everybody else was doing it there. So why can't I? And we found solutions. It's now in 5 provinces that are using it. And again, we make them specific, like in British Columbia and Alberta, it's more of a fire ban focus because of the landscape. But it's a program that we started, and we're seeing good success on it. And more importantly, the industry, the people that are selling to the communities and to the consumers are engaged in this and are handing it out.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'd like to thank you, sir, for your presentation and your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night. Be safe.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, I see it's under still the same, so now I'll go back to the chief. I don't know why he's not using his mic, but he's going to go to the podium. Well, it's up to you, sir. You can make him right there. Oh, you got to stand, yeah, so maybe. He's got it right there. Okay, you're live, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Here before you today, bringing back Bylaw 15 of 2021 for your consideration, hoping to be given 3 readings. Just a little bit of background. Council had asked administration to go back and specifically look at the wording in section 20 as it refers to private hydrants and some of the confusion that may have been displayed in the previous version, specifically referring to who was responsible for the maintenance and who could do the maintenance. So those changes were made, reflected in section 20 for your considerations.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion, Councilor Gilmore.
I do appreciate the changes, and they are very clear in section 20. I have a couple questions now in regard to the firework. I understand that there's a $500 fine when the fireworks are not or the fireworks signage is not highly visible at point of sale. And I see the wording being readable format and as near as possible. So in thinking about someone coming into a point of sale who's now going to charge the person with not having the sign, then the salesperson, the company, could come back to us and say, no, I was 6 feet away, so that's as close as I could get to my, I'm just, like, the piece about the as near as possible, in my opinion, might be a bit vague. But what are your thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I've gone to section 37 under public fireworks display, and that's you're referring to, and it is referring to Schedule B1, which is the display giving the notification to the consumer. You know, what I can say is if this bylaw passes in the wording that is proposed, our inspectors would work in fairness and, you know, work with them. We're not here to iron fist, you know,
Right.
we'd work, you know, it'd be a new bylaw, it'd be a new proposal. They'd first ensure that the placard or the B1 certificate was up in a you know, a place that could be seen by the general public, and then work with the seller.
So further to the education piece that you're referring to in your report, you talk about in the communication plan. I think you use the word educate probably 5 times, 5 different lines. So would we anticipate that the education process is a one-on-one, or would be in a social media sense, or how would that occur?
Thank you, Councillor. What I envision is a lot of education. There's a lot in this bylaw, a lot of changes, and we'd work with the city's communication director, who's acting corporate services director, Kylie, and her team. And we would utilize our resources, which would be our inspectors, who would be, you know, hand-to-hand, face-to-face contact with the public. In this instance, it would be the sellers of the fireworks, dealing with the private hydrants, dealing with the property owners that own those private hydrants. There'd be a lot of one-on-one, but yes, I think our work will be cut out for us as far as the communication piece, and we're willing to tackle that if council approves this document is
Okay, thank you very
presented.
much.
Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you to the fire chief for bringing this forward. As I mentioned before, I am concerned a little bit of the enforcement piece of this, because a lot of these fireworks are happening in the middle of the night and outside of working hours, so I do worry about that. But I guess our thoughts here are, or at least our goal was trying to eliminate some of those midnight calls or midnight displays of fireworks, and I hope this does do that, I guess, by handing out a few fines. But, you know, hearing from the presentation, I worry that we're going to bring about more sales as Mr. Logan from the National Fireworks Association has mentioned, that in those cases, in those cities, when they did ban it, a complete ban, it did amount to more. So I do hope that this addresses some of those issues, at least in my ward, and if nothing else, maybe we look at total ban off the one-offs, because I know there's an 18 age limit, but I don't think that's the biggest issue. It's the one or two cheaper cost of fireworks that people are buying. You know, I mean, I look at the boxes that they provide, $300. I mean, it's not necessarily those that we're worried about. It's the Roman candles and the other things that are being put off in people's yards and back lanes. So, so I do hope this addresses that, and I want to thank you for the work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Mayor Dion. So I'm happy to see that we're not banning the sales of them. We've altered some of the ways that businesses can sell and what they need to do. I think the company or what the presentation was referring to was a complete ban, no selling, no nothing,
Yeah.
right? And we're not going that far. Now, there is a major problem with the fireworks in the city. There's no question. People are scared stiff at midnight. I can speak to myself asking my daughter to run down the stairs as I think that there's gunshots in the block.
Yes.
I'm still not too sure if it was or wasn't. So there is a problem. I did have a number of residents reach out to me and say, listen, it seems like you're kind of making the people that just want to use them on a New Year's Eve the bad people. So, and I understand that comment, and I'm wondering if there's any flavor amongst councillors if we want to allow such a display on New Year's Eve, which is a traditional day with it that is used, and July 1st. You know, I don't know whether that's a good idea. I think it's something that maybe we should talk about. I don't know how I feel about that. I know that I myself have probably lit them off once on a July 1st. I didn't think that caused too many problems, but I know there is problems on regular days for sure. So those are my comments. I don't know whether if there's any other follow-up to that. Maybe the chief has something to comment about other municipalities if they've tried that. I don't know. So that's everything.
Go ahead, Chief, if you want to comment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Edwards. Yes, in fact, municipalities across the West, this has been, a resounding issue and has been addressed in numerous ways by councils, respective councils. Examples of outright bans to specific holidays. So I guess at your discretion, I heard from this council that they wanted an outright ban, that it was an issue within the city. So that's what was reflected in what was presented to you today.
Here. Oh. Councillor Zirakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To me, this is one, I think there's a lot of value in having this conversation and getting to a decision. The hesitation I have is people are asking me, where did this come from? What's the problem? Why are you banning fireworks? And I just don't feel like we've had this conversation because we've heard those stories. We've heard those stories here in this chamber, and we're aware of what's going on in the community, but the public isn't aware. So I think we need to share what we know and share that story with the public and say, this is why we're having this conversation. This is why we're bringing the bylaw forward. And if we do move forward today, we'll move forward with the first reading, but that's where my comfort level is today. I think there's a huge piece missing here, and we need to take this conversation to the public. And we've only had this conversation here in this room. And it's been left to us to answer those one-off questions. And, frankly, we don't have all the answers. So I think that, and Councillor Kilmer alluded to the communication piece. There's a lot there about educate the business owners, educate the public, share the information, educate their businesses.
On the bylaw.
Sure, on the bylaw. But I don't think we've shared that story about what the problem is in our community and why we're making this change. And so that's what I'd like to see more information about before we approach third reading. So about the exemption for New Year's Eve?
Don't want to give us leave, you don't have to.
Sure. Thank you for that procedure information.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued by that. I think that's a string that I'd like to take some time and chat with the people that I talk with, take that to the public, say, we'd like to hear your input. What do you think about, an exemption for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day? I'm not prepared to make that decision today, but I think we need to talk about it. Is it perfect? Clearly not. Is there a missing communication piece here? Absolutely. And I think that's where we need to lay our focus before we go to third reading.
I will be supporting the bylaw strictly because it's a start. And like you've heard the chief say, it's about education, education, education. And that's how you communicate it. We've passed the bylaw. Here's how we're going to communicate. We're going to communicate first with the sellers to pass on the brochures. When someone comes in to buy it, that 18-year-old kid, here's the rules and regulations. That's the education part to me. You can hold up third reading. I've been getting tons of calls, even today, about the bylaw. So they know about it. So I don't know what more we can do. There's just a large sector of our population that doesn't get involved in certain things, especially when it doesn't concern them. But I've heard loud and clear from the residents, we're tired of bang, at 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke everybody up. Well, think about that at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you've heard that. And so if I was one of those persons, I'd be phoning my counselor and say, why are you delaying this? Granted, more people know about it. But how are they going to learn? Because this is the bylaw. And that's when it passes, the education will start. Is it perfect? No. Okay? You can say July 1st. You can say New Year's. Well, what about July 4th? You know, there's always different days that people celebrate. You know, the two biggest days, of course, is New Year's and July 1st here. But the bylaw clearly says we're talking public property. We're talking public property. And I'll give you a perfect example that I witnessed on Saturday, and I was shocked. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I see adults, 4 of them, man and wife, come out of this apartment building on the corner of 4th and Marquis Road, walk across the street over to the Rotary Trail and let their fireworks off. I was shocked. At 1 o'clock in the morning, they come out of the apartment, and these were adults. And of course, when we yelled at them, they were running. And the part that frustrated me is they left all their debris behind. They left all the scent, whatever you want to call them, shell casings, all over the Rotary Trail. And I thought, oh my God, and these are adults. So I will be supporting the bylaw because it's a start, and it's, to me, the start of the education program, because the first thing that's going to happen when you go to buy these fireworks now, you're going to get a brochure saying, here, these are the rules. Councillor Budnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the bylaw as well. I think it's a start, but I hear what Councillor Zurkowski is saying is that we need to do better in where we dream up all these bylaws and policies and procedures, etc. We don't dream them up. They come from somewhere. That's Poli-Sci 101. An issue arises in the community, and that's how something becomes a law, whether it be municipal or at the provincial or at the federal level. And we could alleviate all this. And I'm not asking the communications department to add to their work, but I think at the end of the meeting tonight, we have this YouTube channel that we have. We can make our own video. It doesn't have to be a fancy video. All it has to be is Mayor Dion with our media asking questions and videotaping it. And all of these issues that come up, and then bang, then we put that little chunk of videotape, this 5-minute scrum that you have, on City of PA website, on our Twitter account, on our YouTube, or on our Facebook page, and bang, we're communicating. It doesn't have to be a fancy video. It just is a summary of what happened tonight. And we're telling our story from the elected's perspective of why we voted the way we voted, why we decided what we decided. And that would alleviate all those questions that Councillor Zurkowski is asking, and some of the questions that we're getting. You know, Dr. Chikani's video or his presentation should be on tomorrow or tonight or tomorrow at the latest on Facebook and on Twitter and whatever else we use. I don't know whatever
our
else.
website.
I'm too old to do all that stuff, so but I at least use those two. And today actually I saw Suma retweeted the city of Moose Jaw showing, they put out a video, a 2-minute and 47-second video on how they're spending their money. This is what all of your tax dollars did over the last year. And I thought, wow, you know, that it tells the residents, this is what's happening in your city. This is where your dollars are going. So I think we should try that, and it could alleviate all of the negativity and the questions that people have. They could still call us. I'm not saying I don't want calls, but they could still call us. But it would just tell our story and our perspective of what we decided and how we decided and why we decided. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to hold you up for a minute, Tony, so we can let the media in, because I broke to let you in because this is another important matter that I think should be covered, and I realized the media had left the room. So I understand you wanted to talk to the doctor, but there's other things on the agenda too. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know if you're, sorry, it's not my, I'm not chairing the meeting. I know the chief is standing and looking to speak, so I don't know if he has a point to
No,
make before I
you
go
stay
ahead.
and stand until hear what you have to say.
Well, then I agree with, thank you for some of the comments here, and I agree with most of what I heard. The reason I'm supporting this, I mean, I got enough calls throughout the summer. There's been an issue all summer through the Ward 3, and so no one's calling me to say, hey, let's open up our fireworks bylaw, but they are saying let's limit it and let's do something about it and restrict it, if not end it entirely. So I'm willing to move this motion. That bylaw number 15 of 2021 be introduced and given 3 readings.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Kilmer?
Willing to second that, and Ward 7 has had a lot of calls
That's what I
throughout the
mean.
summer as well.
Okay. Comment, sorry. Councillor Miller?
Thank you for discussion. Yeah, Ward 1 has had a lot of phone calls about the situation. So their feeling is that the fireworks go off here and then something else is going on over here. Not too sure what. However, there's been a lot of reports too of gunfire, and it scares our residents. Our residents are scared. And yes, I too, sometimes, you know, we're at the lake and they do fireworks on July 1st. And, you know, there's a lot of people who live in town, don't go to the lake. And some of them would like to do that as well. So I'm kind of a little conflicted about holidays and any kind of holiday, because a lot of people like to do that then as well.
Okay. Okay, see no one, I'll prompt the question. Thank you, Chief. Okay, the question's now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
You? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk? Am I right? No problem. Just making sure I got the order right.
Mayor Dion, we now have bylaw number 15 of 2021 for the protection of people and property, along with providing authority to the fire service for certain non-emergency services. The bylaw is for 3 readings today.
Councillor Head?
Thank you. I'll move that the bylaw number 15, 2021 be introduced and read a first time.
And just, you can leave your light on, because we'll go through the system. Councillor
I'll
Kilmer?
second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? None, I'll prompt the question. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the bylaw number 15 of 2021 be read a second time.
I'll second that.
Thank you. No comments, I'll prompt the question. Questions open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Do what you want to do. That's all. Like it's not a...
Go ahead, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that that leave be granted to read the bylaw number 15 of 2021 a third time.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
And I'd like to show the screen too, so people know how we voted. Councillor Edwards, who gets the most calls, okay? Councillor Edwards, Councillor Sierakowski. Leave is denied.
So, you comment, but can I comment?
Sure, go ahead. And can you give your phone number too, so they don't call me, they call you?
Offside, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
So listen, Your Worship, I appreciate the peanut gallery there a little bit, but I do receive lots of calls, and I am supportive of the bylaw, but there's a procedure in place for reasons. In the third reading we can allow this to breathe a little bit and see if there's some calls that we get. And I did get a number of calls today about special holidays, because it is coming to light. And so I'm not debating whether this is a good bylaw, because it is a good bylaw. I think it's important to put in place. But, and my phone number, if everybody wants it, I put it all over the place. I got no problem with that. Phone me, please. No issues. But we have procedures for a reason. And I do support the bylaw. I just would like to hear from a few residents about special occasions. Maybe that's not the right thing. Thank you very much.
Councillor Zierkowski.
Thank you for allowing me to speak again. You know, before I get gaslighted, I want to make it clear that I am in favor of the bylaw. It's very rare that we do all 3 readings in one night, and it's usually for a very important reason. Very important reason. This, I suspect, well, I know the answer, it's taken a long time for this bylaw to reach this floor, a long time. And all of a sudden, we're going to pass this voluminous bylaw all in one night? It does no harm to the community to let it breathe, to receive some feedback. The media will do their job. They'll get the details out about the bylaw to the public. Hopefully, we'll do a job on communication, get it out to the public. We'll get some more feedback, and then third reading will come and we'll discuss it and vote at that time. That's the democratic process. Sometimes we like it, sometimes it frustrates us, but that's the rules that we play by.
Okay, we're moving on to communications. There isn't any. We're moving on to number 11, reports of administration and committees. 11.1, discount bus passes. Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I have a couple of questions. First of all, how much does a regular bus pass cost without a subsidy?
Hopefully we know that answer. Go ahead, Director of Public Works.
Regular bus pass is $50.
Thank you. And is there a cap to this? As I understand it, there's a cap. I don't see it in the report here what the cap is, but what is the cap?
The social bus passes, they pay $25.
No,
but social services has a cap?
A cap, yeah, but they adjust the cap according to our needs. We've never bumped up against the cap. We get close and then they would make an adjustment.
So in other words, we've used this year or last year, whichever it is, 3,820 passes. If you multiply that by 25, it's $95,500. So is that below or under the cap?
And Mohammed has more information on that, so I would like to pass that to
Go ahead, no
the
problem.
engineering services manager.
Yeah.
You're live.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillor Cody. Yes, there is a cap, and the cap is $119,000 a year.
119?
$119,000, yeah. And that equals 4,760 passes.
Okay. This program has gone on now for about 15 years, is that correct?
Yes, correct, since 2006.
Yes. And we have not had an increase in that period of time on the $25, have we?
Well, in the past few years, yes, but I cannot speak to back then in 2006 until
When would the last time
2017.
be that we had an increase?
We did not have any increase in the last 3 years, for sure.
Well, you know, it seems to me everything goes up, and you'd think that they would have an increase, but the thing is, I guess, if you're looking at the $25, we've only spent $95,500 out of the possibility of $119,000. So I guess it's fine. But you would think, you know, over the years that social services would try and increase a little bit to to help out with regards to fuel prices are gone up and everything's gone up and so on and so forth. So I would expect that they would look at it. I totally support the program. It's a great program. And, but I would think that we should at some point in time have a bit of an increase, but I guess that's not to be at this point. So I will certainly move the recommendation that the letter of understanding between City and the Ministry of Social Services with regard to the discounted bus pass program for individuals currently participating in Ministry of Social Services programs be approved, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the letter of understanding on behalf of the city once prepared.
Councillor Broderick?
Thank you. I'll second that, and I'd like to speak. if
Go
I
ahead.
can. Okay. Thank you. I support this, and why I support this is the more people we get riding our buses, the better it is for our entire city. Just imagine if all school children were riding the buses as well. We'd have less traffic going down residential streets. We could perhaps even expand the bus program and busing across the city if we had everybody using one system in the city, which is public transit. I'm not saying that we should ban school buses, etc., like that, but this would really help, and this would enhance our own bus system. And so, as I said, the more people that ride, the better the service will be, the better that we will be able to perhaps even expand the program or bus routes, etc. So I'm totally in supportive of this, and I do want to thank, I know the two managers are here, I want to thank them for that extra bus route through Crescent Acres that for high school students. That was a great thing that you did, and so thank you for doing that, the two of you that worked on that, or whoever all worked on that, so thanks.
Councillor Zierakowski.
For number 2, the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the letter of understanding on behalf of the city once prepared. In the report, it says in future years, the city manager be authorized to execute the discounted monthly bus pass program letter of understanding between the city and the Ministry of Social Services. So in the report, it's been changed to what's in front of us. I need some clarification.
Sorry, I forgot to pass this on. So yeah, that wasn't included in there. My understanding is council likes to see these reports back for each year. Okay. So I didn't include that in the report.
Thank you. I think Councillor Cody makes a really good point. We've asked questions about this program for years, and it's bringing it here to the floor and having this conversation, I think leads to sometimes small, sometimes very large advocacy efforts with our provincial government. So thank you for that, City Clerk.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that the province wants to do our policy. Okay, any other comments? I see none. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll prompt the question. Recall, I hit the wrong one. Voting is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. .2, Martin Drive traffic calming. Councillor Edwards? Oop, sorry. Giving it to you. Just give me 1 minute. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I will move the motion, and then I have some comments following after we get a second, please.
Okay, seconder.
I'll move that the report be received as information and filed.
Seconder, Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Dion. This has been ongoing for quite some time, and I do know that we have a policy for speed calming now, which is good. So there has been more complaints, though, than the report says. It really points out to one person complaining multiple times, but there has been multiple complaints. And this isn't a new issue on this road. It isn't a new issue. I've spoken to people that have moved off of Barton Drive because it is a little bit too fast. And I see the statistics, but I also hear the concerns on a regular basis, and not just from one individual. Yes, one individual has a lot of complaints and a lot of videos out there because he's trying to show that there is a concern, and I can respect that. I do know that there is a policy in place, though, that we need a petition, and that the community needs to come forward if they want changes, and that's why I moved this report. It's not going to go away. It's still on the system, and we can work towards a solution if there needs to be. Thank you.
Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciate what Councillor Edwards had to say. There is a piece in this report, though, that is missing for me, and that's the communication piece. I recognize that it's going to be received and filed, but how do the residents, are they relying on Councillor Edwards to give them this information? There's just no communication line in this report.
Okay, thank you. If it's a letter that a resident sent in, we do communicate back to them by letter. Councillor Sierakowski.
Thank you. If this conversation is going to continue, I think we need to find some other method, a broader forum to hear that information, to collect that data. Because as Councillor Edwards alluded to, the report says one person. And since no documented calls to report speeding concerns, with the exception of several calls received in 2020, so except by one resident. So I hear what my colleague is saying, that we certainly get more intimate calls at home than usually ends up in the report. But if this issue is not yet put to bed, I think we need to find a more effective way. And I don't know what the answer is. We held virtual meetings, and I thank the department for that. But you're right, the report makes it sound like it's not an issue at all. And so I'm concerned about either it is or it isn't, and somehow there's a missed communication piece in the middle.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Closed, carried. Thank you. 11.3, hired equipment 2022-2023. Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the tender number 70 of 2021 for the rental of the snow removal equipment and construction equipment, and tender number 71 of 2021 for the rental of tandem axle and semi-trailer trucks be accepted as the basis of external rented equipment for 2022 and 2023 as outlined within the attachments to the report, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any applicable documents on behalf of the city if required.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
I'll second Mayor Dion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? I see no one in the queue. I'll prompt the question. Questions open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. .4 Airport Turf Runway. Councillor Cody?
Yes, I will move the recommendation, Your Worship, that the turf runway be decommissioned at a cost of $5,000 to be funded from the Airport Improvement Fund.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. Comments? Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I do have a couple comments in for the director. What the impacts are, because I see in the report that there's three options: one, to maintain existing service, enhance the service levels, or decommission. And I do see in the report as well that this is the only our landing strip that has a crosswind landing option, and if we do away with it, then we're going to limit ourselves in that fashion. What's the impacts to Prince Albert?
Yeah, I had a question about that statement too, because it's not true, because 95% of our planes can't land on the grass runway. So if you could correct that part in your report too.
Yes, thank you very much. So it has a minor impact for those airplanes that could use the grass runway, those small single engine, general aviation, fixed wing for passenger planes. No of the mayor is right. None of the other planes could ever use that runway, whether it's summer or winter, because it would be unsafe for them to land there. 96, 97% of the time, it doesn't matter what the crosswind is, they can still use the main runway. If the winds are that great, then no one could land regardless. They wouldn't actually divert to the grass runway because it's not long enough and it's not safe enough for larger planes to use. It never has been. So in this case, we're talking about one or two general aviation people use it a couple of times a year, but we have to maintain it at Transport Canada standards. So it is expensive to keep for that. And none of those landings or takeoffs from that runway generate any money because they're under the weight category where we charge. So it's free.
Thank you, Director.
Go ahead. You got more, Councillor Head? Go ahead.
No, thanks. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will prompt the question. Oop, sorry. Questions now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to 11.6, financial services fees. Oh, sorry, 11.5. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. 11.5, 2021 tax exemption and abatements, tax relief. Councillor Miller.
I'll receive and file. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brodnick.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I see no one in the queue. So I'll prompt the question. Okay, it's open to vote. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. And now we go to 11.6, financial services fee and charges bylaw, sorry. Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I will move the recommendation that bylaw number 27 of 21 be introduced and given 3 readings.
Thank you, seconder. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? Now, did you have some discussions, Councillor Cody? You have your light on, you have the floor.
Want me to turn it off?
It's up to you. Do you?
No, I can
Okay, come back to it. Thank you. Councillor Zierakowski.
Well, I just wonder, since this 3 readings are being asked for today, if we could have the communication piece, if administration could let us know why this is important to deal tonight with 3 readings. It never went to executive committee to flesh out this conversation. So I think if 3 readings are asked for, I think it needs to be fleshed out today.
Yeah, and it never went to budget either, so.
Yeah, well,
That's-
it's, so I guess my question is, why now? Why not an executive? And what's in this report?
Okay,
And why are we asking for 3 readings? So those are my questions.
thank you. I'll prompt her. Okay, welcome and you're live.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Zierakowski. The financial services fee bylaw has been getting reviewed in the last couple months due to the nature of a lot of the requests we had during the 2021 revaluation, particularly with requests from professional property tax agents that were representing a lot of our higher valued commercial properties in the city. So we collect a bunch of information, and some of it is confidential information, as in regards of income expense information forms that we send out to request confidential information back. We send out sales verification forms that we ask for information on the purchase of a property, and that's confidential information that we receive back. And we're getting more and more tax agents that are requesting more information from us in regards to those types of things. So with a lot of the information we collect, we wanted to ensure going into the 2022 assessment before our roll opens, we're aiming at approximately mid-January. So we have time to know what we have for appeals coming in based on the issues from 2021, as we're expecting to get more appeal work. So I would like to know what risks we have, in particular for commercial appeals, before we go into finalizing the 2022 property tax bylaw. So it's all timing, and since this work and review took a bit of time, I was working with the city clerk's office. I've been in discussions with the city of Regina, Saskatoon, and SAMA, Saskatchewan Assessment Management Agency, and a number of them had also made changes to their bylaws, which I only was aware of the cities and SAMA on my November 17th city assessor meeting. So due to that timeline, there is no executive meeting scheduled prior to the roll opening.
Okay, thank you for that. You answered that very well. Thank you.
So it's the title that throws us off. So this is really financial services fee and changes to the assessment. It's people, these big corporations that, appeal automatically for Walmart and the big guys. You intend now to supply them information, but you're going to collect back the time and energy that the city puts in to supply them the documents.
That is correct, and the confidential section is there right up front, that they know when they're requesting the information, there's certain information we cannot provide. Even though legislation allows, it protects it already, we're putting it right into the bylaw, so people are aware right away. And yes, will be a charge for the commercial property reports now, the more detailed information that we will only discuss with a property owner. But now the tax agents, the professional tax agents, when they're requesting the information from us, they send us long lists, and it takes us a lot of time to process it and send the information back to them. So now that would be charged per property.
So it's a cost recovery.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other questions? I see none in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor Dion, we now have bylaw number 27 of 2021 to establish certain fees and charges as well as related conditions or requirements of certain information requests from the Financial Services Department. The bylaws for 3 readings today.
Thank you, Councillor Cody.
I move that bylaw number 27 of 21 be introduced and read a first time.
And you'll leave your light on, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions? I see none in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Councillor Cody?
Yes, I move that bylaw number 27 of 21 be read a second time.
Councillor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Councillor Cody?
I move that leave be granted to read bylaw number 27 of 2021 a third time.
Councillor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Leave is granted. Thank you.
I
Councillor
move
Cody?
that bylaw number 27 of 21 be read a third time and passed, and that bylaw number 27 of 21 be now adopted, sealed, and signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And I'll prompt the question. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Don't move. It's a no. Okay, just a minute. I gotta kill the podium. Stop. Okay. Moving on, 11.7, 2022 Land Fund Operation and Capital Budget. Whoop, sorry. Hang on, Councillor Head, I did something. What did I do? How did it jump out? My big finger.
Oops. No, I got a big finger.
Okay, we're back alive. Oh, I know what I did. I hit the button beneath it, the arrow. The house. Okay, I won't. I'm going to use my pen. Sorry, Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the 2022 Land Fund operating budget be approved as follows. 1A, operating revenues of $535,000. B, operating expenses of $310,040. C, capital and interfund transactions of $85,000. And D, an operating surplus of $139,960 to fund capital projects, loan principal payments, and reserve transfers. 2, that the 2020 Land Fund capital expenditures of $700,000 and loan principal payments of $275,700 be approved. 3, that the motions from the 2022 Land Fund Budget Committee deliberations be ratified and that the administration proceed as authorized. And 4, that the approved 2022 Land Fund budget expenditures be approved for disbursement effective January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Councillor Zierakowski?
All right, we'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? I see none, so I'll prompt the question. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, 11.8, 2022 Sanitation Fund and Operating and Capital Budget. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Your Worship. Also move that the 2022 Sanitation Fund operating budget be approved as follows. Operating revenues of $5,380,760. B, operating expenses $4,550,020. C, capital and interfund transfers of $1,169,110,000. My eyes are bad here. D, a deficit of $338,370. After adjusting for non-cash amortization, the surplus is $5,630,000.
No, 500,000.
Sorry, $521,630 to fund capital projects and loan principal payments. 2, that the 2022 Sanitation Fund capital expenditures of $566,000 where the $500 be approved. Ooh, send me to the optometrist here.
I think so.
3, that the motions from the 2022 Sanitation Fund Budget Committee deliberations be ratified and that administration proceed as authorized. And 4, that the 2022 Sanitation Fund budgeted expenditures be approved for disbursement effective January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question.
I know.
Okay, the vote is now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Councillor Zapp passes unanimously again. Thank you very much. I accept. 11.9, 2022 Airport Fund Operating and Capital Budget. Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll go ahead and move that the 2022 Airport Fund operating budget be approved as follows. A, operating revenues of $895,610. B, operating expenses of $1,125,630. C, capital and interfund transfers of $285,730. And D, a deficit of $515,750 after adjusting for non-cash amortization. There is a surplus of $84,250 to fund capital projects and reserve transfers. 2, that the 2022 Airport Fund capital expenditures of $5,179,000 be approved. 3, that the motions from the 2022 Airport Fund Budget Committee deliberations be ratified and that the administration proceed as authorized. And 4, that the 2022 Airport Fund budgeted expenditures be approved for disbursement effective January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Councillor Cody?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. I see no one in the queue. Now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, 11.10, 2022 Water Utility Fund Operating and Capital Budget. Well, that was it, the last one? No. Oh, the one I skipped too. That was part. Okay, sorry. Councillor Gilmer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the 2022 Water Utility Fund operating budget be approved as follows. A, operating revenues of $19,627,790. B, operating expenses of $13,173,220. C, capital and interfund transactions of $6,027,490. And a surplus of $427,080. After adjusting for non-cash amortization, the surplus is $5,927,080 to fund capital projects and loan principal payments. 2, that the 2022 Water Utility Fund capital expenditures of $4,715,000 and loan principal payments of $1,722,600 be approved. And that 3, that all new utility hookups be invoiced by email by default. 4, that the administration provide a report on options for the following. A, to invoice for paper. Administration provide a report on the options for the following. A, to invoice for paper invoicing, and B, to provide incentive for receiving invoices by email. Number 5, that administration provide a report with an outline of the communication plan to address the proposed rate increases and approve future water utilities fund projects. 6, that the motions from the 2022 Water Utility Fund Budget Committee deliberations be ratified and that administration proceed as authorized. And 7, that the 2022 Water Utility Fund budgeted expenditures be approved for disbursement effective January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Cody?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? Councilor Edwards?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this increase to the utility is not easy for me to support. But during our deliberations, I heard plenty of reasons why this is necessary for the community. And I really look forward to that piece going out to the community, showing all the good work that is necessary, correcting or fixing or replacing the pipes in the ground. That's well overdue in many areas. And treating our drinkable water here is expensive. And that's something that I had to listen to. Also, this takes into account reducing the debt. And that's important because we do have some larger projects that are coming up. So I really appreciate the feedback that we got when we were deliberating in this budget, and it really opened my eyes a whole lot. And I think, again, as I said, and many of us said, it's important for the community to see what we're paying for and why this has to go up and why the dollars are where they're at. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Councilor Cody?
Yes, Your Worship. I too have to reiterate what Councillor Edwards said. No one likes tax increases. No one likes utility increases. No one likes increases of any kind. But you know, that's just the way it goes when you have a city that's 100 and some odd years old. And this city is old, and the city's pipes are old. And all of those things are a problem to us. You just look at all of the stuff that we've done. It's just astronomical when you think about it. And really what we've done here is add $2.42 per month if you're using 14 cubic meters. If you're using 22 cubic meters, of course, it's still only $3.25. But you know, when you look at that $3.25 and or the $2.42, that's not only just water consumption. That's water consumption. That's sewer consumption. That's water fixed charges. That's pipes in the ground. That's got to do with the reservoirs. It's got to do with the lifting stations, all of those things. Sewer fixed charges. All of those things are all involved here. And it is just astronomical when you think of the amount of work that this community has done. If you look at the last 3, 4, 5 years, raw water pump, $18,900,000. New reservoir, River Street Reservoir, $14,800,000. Second Avenue and Marquis Road upgrades, $6,200,000. Pumping stations, $12,700,000. West Hill Infrastructure Project, $10 million. West Hill Trunk Sewer, $3.8 million. Water treatment upgrades, $24 million. You look at the water and sewer problem, $20 million. If you look at all of the pipes that we put in the ground, we have put 10 miles of pipes in the ground in the last 4 or 5 years. That's absolutely unbelievable. when you look at that and you look at what it's done to us, in 2014, we had 70 water main breaks. Those 70 water main breaks cost this community $897,000 in repairs. Since that time, taking a good look at what we do and do right, we put a lot of pipes in the ground. The year 2020, we had 22 water main breaks at a cost of $330,000. That's what you call smart work. And I got to give the administration a lot of credit for bringing that forward, and I give equally as amount of credit to this council for allowing it to happen. That's the kind of thing that this council has done, and I think that's the kind of thing that the public has asked us to do. That's why I am not in favor, that's why I am very much in favor of the rate increase. I'm very much in favor of it for that reason, and also that we have a debt, and we have to pay the debt off. And I think with both of those, I don't think the public will say one word. There's going to be public that'll always talk about rate increases, that they're no good. We should have done this. The employees should have done more, and you name it. But you know, at the end of the day, it, I think, is a pretty good deal for the city of Prince Albert. Not only that, but look where we stand. Look at where we stand in all of the cities in Saskatchewan. We stand at the second lowest of all of them, the second lowest. I think that's pretty good. If you look at the lowest person, the lowest city is Saskatoon. You look at the highest, it's Humboldt. Humboldt is $143. We're at $88. Saskatoon's at $86, and they haven't raised their rates yet. So, you know, we're doing pretty good. And if you look at all of our neighboring provinces, we're even as good as Alberta. Everybody wanted to move to Alberta. Well, they should have gone, because the rates there are more than ours by a ton. And they got all kinds of water. So I think we're doing pretty good in the city of Prince Albert. Thank you very much to the administration, and thanks to this council for having the foresight to allow it to happen.
Councillor Bodnick.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cody, for reminding us and the residents of all of the dollar figures that went into the city over the last several years. And one thing that I just wanted to add to that as well is not only did we do this to prevent breaks and et cetera, but it was also safety. And if you think about the 4 blocks on 12th Street, I think $2.1 million was spent there over 2 years to put pipes in the ground and to replace lead pipes, make it safe water for those residents. That worked out to $17,000 in improvements per property owner. That's what was spent over the course of 2 years on that particular project. So again, things like this aren't cheap, and the city has spent, what is it, $100 million, I think, in the last 15 years or something like that on these kinds of improvements. And that's where the public needs to hear that's where their tax dollars are going, is in making not only improvements, but safety for some residents of the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see no one else in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. 11.11, 2022 to 2024 proposed water and sewer rate and fees increase. This is the bylaw we require. Councillor Cody?
Yes, I will move that bylaw number 22 of 2021 be introduced and given 2 readings.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I second that.
Thank you. Discussion? I don't see. Oh. Councillor Zirakowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before we're being asked for 2 readings tonight, we'll see 3rd reading at some point in the future. I think before we go into third reading though, I think it's important that we recognize the investments, as Councillor Cody and other members have indicated, the investments into this community. Unfortunately, what we're going to hear tomorrow is about the increases. That's all we're going to hear. Administration has done a fantastic job of identifying priorities in the city and the needs that need to be addressed. We have fantastic workers out there in water up to the kneecaps, fixing water lines weekly that burst in front of our neighborhoods and on our main roads. That's important to recognize, and we need that investment. My question is, and my hesitancy is, while we shared some of those stories here today because we've heard about them, we've learned about them, how do we get that message out to the public? Mr. Mayor, you and I have sat in at least 5 meetings that talked about sharing these big picture items, these big picture messages out to the community so that they can understand why that infrastructure from the Victoria Hospital going down to 15th Street needs to be made, needs to be spent. It's because it's over at 95% capacity. And that's why we have those orange buildings on 15th Street, those orange shacks, digging out the sludge, if that's what you want to call it, yes, because the pipes are full and they're flat. So how do we do better? When are we going to do better? And in fact, moving forward, I don't think we should approve any utility budget, any budget, until we see a communication plan that goes out with it, that accompanies it. I think we're past the days of saying, we're in this room, it's a good idea, it's needed, third reading, here we go. We need to take that story to the public. The public expects it, they demand it. So my question is to you or the administration, before we get to third reading, are we going to share some of those stories with the public? And how are we going to do that? Yes, I guess we're supposed to.
Okay. Who wants to tackle that answer? Nope. Go ahead.
The answer is yes. We will be communicating those stories through a number of measures this week, starting this week. As early as tomorrow, I think we'll start getting some of those messages out. In terms of the communication plan accompanying decision items, the suggestion would be to get the communication planning going well before the report comes to council. That would help in the planning process to make sure that we're ready at that time when it's time for a decision.
Because I'd like to see us get to the point that when we pass it, that we turn around and give what we want to say to the media. So then at least we've done our part, we've given our story to the media, and then it's up to them to get it out to the message.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, sir.
I think it's. I'd like to say, as my colleague says, the difference between revolution and evolution. I think we need to have some sort of a revolution between. We're just politicians, right? But I'd like to see our public hear from the managers. I'd like to see our public hear from the people doing that great work in our community. See that pipe that's full of, by the way, what you shouldn't be sticking into the toilet because it's going to backflow you and your neighbors, right? So those types of, and the cost associated with those things, I think that's really important. And we see other communities doing that, and I'd like to see us leap forward into being able to do that ourselves. So I appreciate the comments about the communication plan. Are members of council going to see that communication plan specifically to this utility item as we move forward, and look forward to some of that stuff that will start tomorrow? So that we know what to expect?
Yes.
We will?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we have some materials ready to go, so I can send those to you tonight for review.
Thank you.
Well, because lots of times those materials help us answer the questions we're asked. Okay, I'll prompt the question. This is first reading of the bylaw. Yeah, first reading. That one right there. Thank you. It's now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Mayor Dion, we now have bylaw number 22 of 2021 to govern the water and sewer utility rates and fees charged to consumers connected to the city's waterworks and sanitation sewer system. The bylaw is for 2 readings tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Cody.
Yes, I move that bylaw number 22 of 21 be introduced and read a first time.
Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue. I'll prompt the question. It's now open. Councillor Zepp.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
I move that bylaw number 22 of 21 be read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue. So I will prompt the question. The question is now open. Councillor Zepp.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. We'll move to 11-12, 2021 lease renewal, Prince Albert Airport glass field. Councillor Edwards.
I'll move that the 2021 airport lease and license renewals be approved, subject to A, City Council approval of the new lease rates proposed by the Airport Advisory Committee, and 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Miller.
Yes, I'll second Mayor Dion.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I see no one in the queue. So I'll prompt the question. Councillor Zepp.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, 11-13, renew a fixed rental farmland agreement, Prince Albert Airport glass field. Councillor Edwards.
Also move that the fixed rental farm lease agreement between the city and Brynmore Farm Limited and K Grain and Cattle Company be approved for a 5-year term from January 1st, 2022 to December 30th, 2026. 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Cody.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, questions? I do have a question. And I don't know who can tackle this one because it probably has to do with assessment. I see the rates gone down towards assessment. Do we not take into consideration the harvest? Do we not consider what they're growing on the land and the profit that they make? And I see it's dropped by quite a bit. And I know it has something to do with assessment. I should have maybe had the assessor stay to see if she could answer that question. But when we're leasing land where they're going to put something in a profit from it, I think it's important that we get the value for our taxpayers out of that piece of land. And I don't understand why the assessment of the land value going down brought the lease payment down, because at the end of the day, it should also be based on the value of the crop. We might have been better off to take bushels instead of cash and crop shared instead of cash rented to them. Does someone in financial service, can they answer that question?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I believe that this was a little bit of a separate issue because it's on the airport and it's a lease as opposed to a fixed farm within city here. So I believe it had to do with the airport and how the airport set up theirs. but it's not necessarily according to the assessment here.
You're getting saved because whether you grow wheat in the field or you grew wheat at the airport. I know.
Vanessa may not be aware of this.
Oh. Okay. So what we're talking about is
Sorry, Mayor.
we have a fixed rental agreement on the airport land. And I noticed, it looks like to me the assessment went down. So for some reason, we brought the lease rate down. And my debate is, it should have nothing to do with the land. It should be what's being produced on the land. And because they're still putting the same crop in, and they're still getting the same profit, and they were paying that lease agreement before. But now the assessment of the land at the airport's gone down. I don't understand how that ties to the lease agreement.
Okay, thanks for the question, Mayor. I'd
May
have to
not be
look
able to
up,
answer it because by the sounds of it, it sounds as like you did the assessment and then financial services decreased the lease agreement.
yeah, I don't know the particulars in regards to lease, but in regards to farmland and how they're assessed, it's a provincial average, and that is determined, we get that information from Saskatchewan Assessment Management Agency. So it is developed as a provincial average on the production, on the crop production. So I was provided for assessment purposes, the average rate per acre that's determined from our neighboring RMs. And that's what was applied on the assessment value for any of the farmed land that we have within the city boundaries. Now, how the lease part was done, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Okay, but so the province puts on the price of farmland and it just went down across the board.
There were some areas, when I was involved in meetings, there are some areas in the province that went up and went down.
Okay.
But because it's a provincial average, it depends on what it is, if it's arable, non-arable land, hay, pasture land.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll prompt the question. The question is now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. It passes 8-1. (11:14) Community Safety Incentive Motion Lights Program Summary. I get there next.
Mayor Tiana will receive and file.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? I see none in the queue. Ooh. Questions now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. 11.15, bylaw number 26, rezoning 1460 7th Street East from CMU zoning district to R4 zoning district. Oop. Councillor Zirakowski.
Oh. I can show my mic.
How did that jump? Councillor Zirakowski.
So lie.
We'll jump it back to him, eh?
I will move that bylaw number 26 of 2021 to be given first reading, and that administration provide notification to hold a public hearing.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions? Back to you, Councillor Zerkowski.
I will move that bylaw 26 of two.
Oh, you done? Sorry, I'll come back to you in a minute. So I'm prompting the question to move the bylaw. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. City Clerk?
Mayor Dion, we now have bylaw number 26 of 2021 to amend zoning bylaw number 1 of 2019 to rezone 1460 7th Street West from CMU commercial mixed use to R4 high density residential. The bylaw is for first reading today.
Thank you, Councillor Zerkowski.
So then I will move bylaw 26 of 2021 to be introduced and read the first time.
Thank you, Councillor Head.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, and I'll prompt the question. It's now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Miller? Sorry. No problem. It's getting late. That was my point. Okay, moving on. That was only one reading. Thank you, gentlemen. No problem. 1116, Buyer Street annexation, next steps. Oop, sorry. Councillor Bodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that administration forward the draft Byers Street Annexation Agreement to the RM of Prince Albert for consideration once finalized. That administration forward the annexation application to the RM of Prince Albert for consideration once prepared. That administration proceed with the complete public notification in the first quarter of 2022, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement, annexation application, and any other applicable documents on behalf of the city once finalized.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Miller.
Yes, I'll second Mayor Dion.
Thank you. Any questions? Oop.
Just
Councillor Bodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick statement that this here is the beginning of the kind of like a ring road around Prince Albert. To have, I think it's going to be 21st Avenue East, somewhere around there, from 302, Highway 302, eventually joining up with Marcus Road East in Prince Albert. We have completed the west side, and now we're moving towards the east side. So this is the beginning steps of getting that particular road surveyed, bought, and built and planned. So it's good to see. It's what majority of residents wanted, was a north access to 302. That's what I heard at all the community meetings. I know there's some opposition, but from what I've been told, the majority of the residents wanted a north access. It'll alleviate speed on Muzzy Road and at 15th Avenue and Muzzy Road, and also at 28th Street and all of Diefenbaker Drive. So this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
It is. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm prompting the question. Question's now open. Councillor Zepp.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. 1117. Obstructive solicitation bylaw. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Your Worship. I so move that the obstructive solicitation bylaw number 8 of 2007 be amended to reflect the changes by the city solicitor.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Gilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciate this motion coming forward as quick as it did. I appreciate some of the changes here too that we're seeing and some of the solutions. It is a problem in our city. It's certainly chasing some shoppers out of our city and making them feel uncomfortable when they do need to utilize our stores in our city, and that's not right. Some of the comments I really like here is the enforcement resources receiving cooperation from complainants and business owners to identify offending parties. I think that's important. We got to work together as a team to help out. And police equipped to address the confrontational situations by attending to a location where the complaint identifies the solicitation to be an ongoing basis. I like that as well. Business owners can also assist by identifying and banning the soliciting parties from their private properties, giving police further legal authority to remove trespassers from common solicitation areas. And this is absolutely huge. Once the businesses find out that, they can do this and we work with them, I think it's so important. And then it gives the tools that can be utilized because, we want people to be in Prince Albert and appreciating Prince Albert and coming to our stores and supporting our local economy. And right now, a lot of people from out of town are struggling with that. And so I know there's a lot of needy people in our community. I think there's solutions that we can work towards to help them out. But in the meantime, there's also a problem in certain areas of our city, lots of areas in our city. And it's often repeat people. So I really appreciate what's come forward. I really like the definitions of the causes and obstruction means. There's a variety in the report. I'm not going to read it right now. I think that's important to have in the bylaw. And I hope we communicate extensively with businesses in the community and with police saying, listen, this is what's in place. This is what we want. This is what we expect to utilize these bylaws to help our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you very much. I too appreciate the bylaw. I do feel that the $2,000 fine as a deterrent is not the place where that will happen because I do think that it's very few people that are in our city that do require some help and this bylaw can help our police and the store owners identify and keep people from their property. My question for the city solicitor is what requires we talk about banning and that the store owners will need to provide a letter that bans, I think, and does the store owner then have to actually give that letter to the person who they are banning? And secondly, will the city be providing a sample letter as part of our communication plan?
Thank you for the question.
Just hang on, please. Go ahead.
Thank you for the question, Councillor, to the Mayor through to Councillor Kilmer. The law of trespass does require that communication of withdrawal of consent to a person who is otherwise attending on public property where there's an invitation to attend, as there would be at store retail facilities, needs to communicate to that person that the consent has been withdrawn. So once that consent is withdrawn, whether that's verbally or, better yet, in writing, that can be enforced by calling the police. We can do that now simply by a phone call. The retail outlet owner or business owner can simply phone the police when there's somebody unwanted there. So it doesn't have to be a second occurrence. It can be the first occurrence when somebody is doing something that is unwanted on the premises. They need to be told they need to leave. When they don't leave, they are actually in a position of trespass. So I think most of these situations will involve not a letter to a recurrent person, but probably solving a problem that exists right at that particular time. So I would suggest that the property owners will probably more likely be withdrawing their consent in the moment to the particular person without a written document. However, it would be a very short document, and if there's a business owner that requires some precedent for it, we can certainly provide them with that.
And just to help that with Councillor Kilmer, in the 90% of the cases that I banned in my other career, when you notify them, you also notify them when the police are there, and then they actually put it on the police report, and actually then in the future, if they're called, when they bring the name up, it'll show that they've been banned. And then the police know right away that they have a trespass case. The key is just to communicate it. Okay, Councillor Zirakowski.
Nice segue. So it sounds like the strengths of this particular bylaw, the successes will be dependent on the cooperation of the public, the police, and the business owner. So sounds great. So my question is, what happens now? What happens after this bylaw gets passed? How do we ensure, or do what we can to ensure the strengths and the success of this bylaw? In terms of process, now what?
Communication.
No, but I mean, does this bylaw go to before the police commission? Does it have an administrative route? How do we share this with this tool with the small business owners? Does it go through the bid? Are we just sort of
the police are actually using it now. There was a change to the criminal code. You used to only could get charged with trespassing at night, and they changed the criminal code, so you can also be banned during the day. So we've been using it long before this bylaw. So all the bylaw does is just add more teeth to the situation.
right? So this is it then. We're done with this bylaw. Or what happens now?
No, go to Craig. He's going to communicate. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Zirakowski. As Councillor alluded to, I think the effectiveness of this bylaw is taking more of a proactive approach rather than reactive. So my plan will be, I did deal with and work with the police service in the preparation of this report, and they said if we need any statistics where the types of calls to some of our problem areas go to, they'd be happy to refer those to me. So I see myself preparing a letter. I'm obviously having our communications manager review that as well, and distributing that letter to some of our problem business owners, and educating them of what their resources they have available to them, and then monitoring closely and checking in.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple questions, because I realize that this bylaw isn't a new one. Looking at 2007 was the first pass at it, and then we're expanding on our, as Mr. Mayor said, putting more teeth into it. But what is the outcome? Because all I can see is that a police officer is allowed to ask the A to move, and then if they don't, they fine them up to $2,000, and if they don't pay that, then they put them in jail for 90 days. Could you comment on that?
And leave your light on till you're dismissed, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Head. It's a great question, which I don't have a very complete answer for you. What I can tell you is that often these issues are the result of social consequences and things of that nature. So it is a very broad approach. This is simply one tool in the toolbox of police to help them enforce. However, certainly a broader discussion, a lot of that going on right now with the homelessness initiative and things like that. So I hope to make some headway in that regard, but unfortunately that's the best answer I can offer you today.
Thank you for your answer.
Okay, any other discussion?
Tara Lennox.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so the bylaw that is in our agenda, it is the 2007, the existing bylaw. It's already on our website. It exists currently. We have not yet seen the proposed changed language. I understand that if this motion before us passes, then we would see updated language come back to us to amend a bylaw into the future. I've read the report a couple of times, and I'm yet, I'm kind of in the same boat as Councillor Head. I'm not certain if we're going to see a positive solution here, and we don't yet have the language of what we're going to be looking at. But if this passes, I'm sure we will see that in future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through to Councillor Lennox. I do apologize. The updated version of the bylaw is in the report. I expected it to show up redlined, but it did not. So for your reference, 2I of the bylaw is some new language, along with causes and obstruction F. So those are the two substantive changes in the bylaw. And what we'll be doing is preparing an amendment at an upcoming City Council meeting.
Can you make sure it's highlighted when
Absolutely.
it comes to bylaw? Today is we're just instructing you to bring the bylaw. So can you just make sure when the bylaw comes to us, it's highlighted?
I will, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Okay, it's now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yeah, sorry, my vote is no.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. 1118, Municipal Revenue Sharing Declaration. This is something the province requires from us every year to give us our money. Motion. Thank you, Councillor Barton.
I'll move it. If we're going to get money from the province, I'll move this. That
Yeah,
the
otherwise
city
we
meets
don't.
the following eligibility requirements to receive the municipal revenue sharing grant. A, submission of the 2020 audited financial statements to the Ministry of Government Relations. B, submission of the 2020 public reporting on municipal waterworks to the Ministry of Government Relations. C, in good standing with respect to reporting and remittance of education property taxes. D, adoption of procedure bylaw number 26 of 2014. E, adoption of the following employee policies to represent employee code of conduct. 1, conflict of interest policy. 2, gift favors entertainment policy. 3, employment and relatives policy. 4, occupational health and safety policy, harassments safety administrative policy. And 5, progressive discipline policy. And F, all members of council have filed their public disclosure statements as required. And 2, that the city clerk be authorized to execute the declaration of eligibility and submit it to the Ministry of Government Relations.
Seconder. Councillor Miller.
I'll second.
Thank you. Boy, they don't want to be in our house, but look at the regulations they want to give us money. Okay. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but we got to do it. It's required, so I see no positive comments, which is led by me, by the way. So I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Right, I want the government to know that. Okay. 1119, procedure bylaw. Bylaw number 23 of 21. Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I move that bylaw number 23 of 2021 be introduced and given 3 readings.
Don't sidebar. Seconder. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? I see none.
Tara Lennox up.
Okay, go ahead.
Question for the city clerk. My understanding from the report is that once this matter passes, then all votes at city council level would be in the minutes showing how each councillor voted. Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
And does that apply to executive committee as well?
No.
No, that only applies to city council.
Okay, and then I just have two comments. Firstly, I think that is positive to have in those minutes how members of council have voted. It just adds to the transparency, so that's good. Two concerns that I have. One is that this procedure bylaw allows discretion to restrict how many members of council could be attending remotely. And I'm not certain that there's a reason that we require that. I understand that other cities in Saskatchewan have had many members and sometimes all members appearing remotely during COVID times. And the second issue is that this bylaw states that the mayor would not be able to attend remotely unless all members of council were attending remotely. And again, I don't see a particular need to have that requirement. I understand that the mayor chairs the city council meetings, but I would think that there would be some way to deal with that. Thank you.
Yeah, just for myself, I have no issue with that. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple questions of some of the changes. So first off, change number conduct of delegations. So that'd be point number 44, C, page 37 of our new bylaw. Just asking, is this meant to change that once a person makes a presentation, they are no longer allowed to reflect and or come back to the mic? I guess a little bit of what this change makes, or what it does to our delegations.
No debating.
Pardon me?
They can't debate with us. Once they're done speaking and it goes to council, then we carry on. They cannot come back and debate us.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that change.
Which one were you specifically speaking of?
Sorry, proposed number 44 would be the new number. It's heading conduct of delegations. It's deleting, it looks like C. And it just says reflecting on a vote of council except when moving to rescind or reconsider it. And reflecting on the motives of the members who voted on the motion or the mover of the motion. So you're asking to delete that out of there.
Yeah.
Me, I'd like to hear from the delegations and the points that come after.
Okay, so the reason why C was being actually removed is that reflects actually council, not delegations, and it should have actually never been in the delegation section in the first place. And C, where we're saying making comments that do not relate to subject matter of the item, the delegation request to speak on just simply states that if they come here to speak on one subject matter, they don't end up speaking about another subject matter.
But it doesn't limit them to come back to the mic to have that second, as long as it's on topic.
If they submit, if it's on topic, it's fine.
Okay.
If it's not on topic, it's not.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel a little bit better. Leaving the meeting, I have a question on that one, number 48. Your proposal, and I don't know if that just means we're leaving to the washroom, so it's going to be indicated in there that they had gone to leave for that, or is it just like I left the building? Just a little explanation on that one, please.
That section is actually, I actually do that already because in the minutes, I have to indicate whether you're here to vote or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I simply indicate in the notation that you've left the chamber and then when you come back.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that helps. And I have one more. And it's about debating motions. So debate on motions, so it's on page 52. Proposed change is going to be reflect 68, point number 4. When the mover, yeah, I'll let you guys go. Page 52. So, and the heading is debate on motion. And it's saying when the mover has closed the debate and the mayor has put the motion to vote, no member shall debate further on the question. Now, if you move forward a couple pages, I think it's contradicting itself a little bit. So if you go to, I don't know, it's page 60 in my book I'm looking at, change to a D, and it says there should be no limit to the number of times a member may speak to a question. And I guess, is that the other one says that the mayor can stop questions or comments, debates, and I guess a little bit of clarification on that one, please.
Okay, so the one about the debate on motion, when the mover has closed the debate and the mayor has put the motion to vote, that means a mover has, the mover of the motion has closed the debate. So the mover of the motion is the only one that can close the debate.
Good to know. Thank you for clarifying.
So if Councillor Head moves the motion, he is responsible to close the debate if he wishes, right? So if you close the debate, the mayor will put the motion to vote. And that's what that is. The second one is about there is no limit to when an item is on the floor for debate, there is no limit. So when it's on the floor for debate, there is no limit.
And that's what I know that we've come across that a few times, and it's been, the question was called, or the debate was limited, or, I'm going to the last speaker. So this says that we can get to the mic, back to the mic as many times as we need to.
There is no limitations.
Thank you.
That's always been there.
Yeah, and it's say as long as it's not abused. Okay, I see no one else in the queue. No, he's waiting to do the bylaw. So I'll prompt the question. Okay, the question's now open. Councillor Zapp?
No.
Motion carries 8-1. City Clerk?
Mayor Dion, we now have bylaw number 23 of 2021 to regulate the proceedings of City Council and Council's committees. The bylaws for 3 readings tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Cody?
Yep, I move that bylaw number 23 of 21 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Gilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue. I'll just continue with the vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Zapp?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes 8-1. Councillor Cody?
I move that bylaw number 23 of 2021 be read a second time.
I'll second that.
Councillor Gilmore, thank you. So I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Councillor Zapp?
No.
Passes 8-1. Councillor Cody?
I move that leave be granted to read bylaw number 23 of 2021 a third time.
Councillor Gilmore?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue, so I'm prompting leave. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Oh, the switch. Leave is not granted. Defeated 8-1. Councillor Miller. She voted the first couple times, threw me off. Okay, that's acceptable. Unfinished business, we have none. Mayor and councillors forum. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple here. First, I want to acknowledge and congratulate Prince Albert resident Brittany Hudak, who over the weekend competed at the Para-Nordic World Cup races at Canmore Nordic Center. So she's a Para-Olympian, and she won 4 golds and 1 silver in that particular competition. It's quite remarkable to have a local person, achieve that kind of success at the world level. This is a world competition. And I remember teaching Brittany back quite a few years ago, and never would have thought that somebody that sat there in your class would rise to this kind of level. So I want to give a huge shout out to her family that had supported her, and all of her coaches. And she'll be wearing the maple leaf in Beijing at the Olympics with pride, and we wish her well as she moves forward in her sport. I also want to thank the Northern Bears Hockey Club for their contributions to Councillor Miller's initiative of the purses. They held a collection drive at last Sunday's game and presented it to Councillor Miller. And so I want to thank that particular organization for stepping up and helping out with our city campaign. And on that note, just to remind residents that, you know, if you're buying a Christmas gift for a sports fan, get them a pass to the SO Cup, which will be held in Prince Albert. That's a national championship of midget female hockey, U18. I can't remember the exact price, but it's reasonable. And everybody should just buy a season pass just to help support female athletics in Prince Albert. And then last but not least, is this where we can give our Merry Christmases at this particular time too?
No, at the end.
Yeah.
Just right at the end. I was going to go around the table.
After?
Yes.
Okay, then I won't do that right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to, before we adjourn, I was going to go around the table. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just one quick thing. I just want to give a shout out to the police union. We never had a chance to do a picture with the media or anything for their donation to the homeless gathering of supplies that Councillor Miller organized, and they gave $500, and it's certainly respected from the union. I know it goes a long ways, and I'll give a shout out to all of the councillors in this room here that participated in that and packed things and collected and gathered, and I wasn't able to help out a whole lot this year due to time constraints, but I sure appreciate the efforts that you all did. So great job.
Thank you. Any other comments under there? Okay, I'll move. Oh, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I'd also like to thank Councillor Ogrotnik for organizing the Bears and getting all the gifts together, and it was greatly appreciated. And the police union as well. They're going to be keeping everybody's hands warm, because that's what they bought, was mittens for everyone. And Eleanor George for all of her scarves, and here we are, we're all wearing them. And yes, Mayor Dion, you hide. Somebody forgot theirs at home.
Did you give me a couple?
Yeah, the dog chewed his homework. Anyways, yes, thank her and the lady who helped her out as well. And there's another lady in town who did scarves, and Darlene Kowalski, thank you very much for that. And yeah, thank you.
And just to add to Eleanor George, 200. That's incredible. We're not talking 20, 30, 200. So good for her. Okay, we're going to move on then to inquiries. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess we're coming to the final end of our year here, and I guess I'm inquiring today to see where our report on the Truth and Reconciliation. I know I had some withdrew some motions. This motion came forward in July, and I think we're past the 90 days for that report, so I'd like to see it ASAP, please.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I guess this inquiry is to Public Works. I've sat in the chair for only 5 years, but I seem to be bombarded with snow clearing a little bit more than normal. And it seems like we're doing something different. And I don't know what that is. Maybe you can help me explain why there's so many concerns from residents this year.
Good point.
Thank you for that inquiry. We're not doing anything different. We're doing the same thing we've been doing in the past. I think it might be a combination of a couple of factors, and this is just my opinion, but factor number one was the first snowfall of the year was of the wettest stickiest nature, which is not normal. Usually the first few snowfalls are kind of on the on a drier side. This one was extremely wet, which caused a lot of ice buildup on the bottom side of the snow. So up top it might look still like great for snowballs and stuff, but down below it was freezing to the roadways and the sidewalks, which made it for the first snow plow of the season down your street. They brought up a lot of those ice chunks, and those ice chunks, when they go into the windrow, don't pile very nicely. So we probably got a lot of complaints due to that. Another factor is COVID, and it's a product of the fact that more people are at home than normally in the daytime, and all the people who usually go south are still at home. So we got a lot of calls as the snowplow went down the street. They're watching it go past their house. They see the wing go down. They see a windrow in front of their driveway. We had lots of callers that were on the phone to our staff complaining that we left a windrow in front of their driveway, and then when on the phone, all of a sudden they stopped and they says, "Oh, I see the chase loader. Yeah, they just cleaned it up. Okay, thank you very much. Bye." So I think it's just a product of this year, but we're doing the exact same thing we've always done. We haven't changed our process. We still got the chase loaders, but we did have a very unusual snow, and we do have a lot of people at home watching us perform our work this year.
Yeah, and thank you. That makes a lot of sense for sure. I'm just wondering, I know that the piles are a little bit bigger than normal, maybe for this early in the year. Are we planning to reduce the sizes of those? Because, boy, next snowfall, we're going to have single lane traffic in some of these streets.
Yes. We've already done a snow lift downtown. There'll be another one. Tomorrow starts a snow lift on 6th Avenue East for the medians to remove all the snow down the middle. We've already done a snow lift on 22nd and sorry, I shouldn't say 22nd, it was 28th Street. And so we continue to do that whenever we've got time in between these snowfalls. So with the snowfall from Sunday, priority 1 streets were priority today, and that snow lift on 6th tomorrow. So we're always constantly doing that.
Okay, and the cul-de-sacs, I know, because of the heavy snow and the ice, they've really been pinched.
Yes. We always do a lift on, there's a specific cul-de-sacs throughout the city that give us those kind of problems. And I know that we always do a lift towards the end of the season, but due to the fact that the snow is coming faster than normal, we'll probably have to do one earlier. Yes.
So should the residents call in and say, hey, our cul-de-sac's tight, or do you want a list from us? Or
It's good to hear from the residents. We record every complaint that comes in. Okay. They can use our regular Public Works line, 4900.
Okay.
Or they can also go on our website and put in their inquiry that way too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Councilor Zirakowski.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. The strategic plan, question to the city manager. Where is our strategic plan? We
had our day, yeah.
We worked on it hard. There's my understanding that the work plans for the directors flow from the strategic plan to ensure we're all rowing in the same direction. So I'm not sure how we measure that moving forward, especially after, fortunately, it never came out before budget. So I guess the strategic plan, how do we ensure we're working in the same direction without a strat plan, and when will we see it?
Mayor, do you want members of council? What I can say is I honestly haven't seen anything come from the company yet. They were going to work over it over a period of time. There has nothing directly come to my office. Now, there might have been something that's been forwarded to Mel's office. I don't know that for sure. But I haven't seen anything, and I'm not sure any of the directors have seen anything. And most of the stuff was vetted through Mel. So I can check with that and report back, but I have not seen anything. I can talk to the directors right here. Has anyone seen anything as far as the plan? No, nothing.
So it's been since November 15th. So I guess my question is, after hearing that, now what? When should I ask this question again? And what happens after today?
I hope someone's gonna phone them.
Yeah, well, tomorrow morning will be my first phone call. I'll do that first thing in the morning and see what the status is, and then I will report back to City Council. I'm sure they will have some dates in there, and get us a draft is what we're waiting for, really. And we'll push that envelope out tomorrow.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Question for the director. And I've been asked this quite a few times this year, and actually at the game, Raider game, because I'm accessible, so that it come up. And they explained it similar to petitioning for asphalt. Both, one lived in a cul-de-sac and one lived in a place, and said every resident they talked to, can they sign a petition for us not to do snow removal? And especially cul-de-sacs, they're a headache. Places are the same. And if the residents choose, I did explain to them we would have to come in the spring, because once the thaw happened, they wouldn't be able to move because they'd break through. And I see where they're coming from. I went and toured the place, and it's packed down hard. It's almost level with the driveways. And I did explain that come spring, you're not going to get out because you're going to break through that. So I'm quite sure the answer is no, but I told them I'd ask.
Thank you for that question, Mayor. You are correct. That is the problem. If we were to pass over their street, generally speaking, the people who want us to pass over that street will be happy. But there'll be some people on that street who'll be disappointed and complain that they didn't get their tax dollars value out of our snowplows because we skipped them. And you are absolutely correct. The first nice weather, you get one of those Chinooks in February or late February, and the street would turn soft, and that 8 or 10 inches of hard packed snow would turn into mush, and everyone would be stuck on the street. And then, yes, we'd have to be there to plow them out. So that's why we don't do that. We try to get every single street. I know it leaves a windrow, but that is just part of living in Canada, I think.
In the snow country. Okay, my last question is to the city clerk, and it was sparked by a vote tonight. In our procedure bylaw, does a councillor have to say why they voted no? Because I'll be asked tomorrow by residents that there was one vote that went 8-1. Can you tell me why the one person didn't support it? The one before supported the leave and everything, explained why she didn't support it. But in this one, it was negative. So are we required by our procedure bylaw to answer that question if we're going to vote no, to explain why, so then we can explain it to the general public?
No, Mayor, you're not required to in the bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much. Just checking because I'll be asked that question again tomorrow. Okay, we're going to move on to 15, inquiry responses, November 29th. Go ahead, Councillor Zurkowski.
I can move to receive and file those, and thank you to administration for the responses.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards.
Your worship.
Thank you. Okay, I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Passes. Thank you. Notice of motions. Go ahead, Councillor. Councillor Zurkowski. Okay. Don't all fight. Councillor Ed.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion here today to consider at the next City Council meeting, so I'm not asking for leave today. But the motion be that the city contribute $10,000 in funding to assist in the operations of our day shelter / Moose Lodge here located at the Union Center, which is ran by the Prince Albert Grand Council Urban Services. That would be my motion.
Okay, and I'll also bring a report back on what they got from the province. I think they got 88,000, so I'll bring that back as well. Councillor Zurkowski.
Thank you. I'd like a leave to provide. I have a notice of motion to be heard tonight. May I?
We got to say the motion. Yeah.
Yep. That administration prepare an application for federal and provincial dollars for a branch library in the Southeast Sports and Culture Complex for City Council's approval.
Okay, any questions? Any more notices? Okay, we'll go to motions. And we have, I'll give you a chance, Councillor Zirakowski asking for leave to hear his motion tonight. Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
You what? Yeah, you have to bump it. Now, is it a majority or? Okay, I remind everyone it has to be a 2/3 vote.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask that the motion just be repeated, please?
I'll get the city clerk. I just need a clarification. What do you mean by southeast complex?
Well, when you sell it, we'll know what to call
Okay, but is that where the pool and the two, unfortunately, that will affect our grant. So,
it. So my motion, I'd like to speak to it if I may, if we're going to enter into debate, I'd like to speak to it.
We're just talking about weed.
okay. Okay, everyone understand the motion? And he has to get 2/3 for leave to be granted. No, it's, yeah, to be considered tonight.
Okay, no, Mayor, I'll give you it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. The vote's now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Okay, passes 8-1. Leave is granted. Councillor Zirakowski?
You have to move it.
You have to make a motion, move it.
I move that the
No,
administration.
let him, you have to turn his microphone off.
That administration prepare an application for federal and provincial dollars for a branch library at the Southeast Sports and Culture Complex for City Council's approval.
Seconded.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion?
Okay, so I'd like to thank my colleagues for allowing me leave tonight to deal with this. And the reason I wanted to deal with this tonight is because there is an envelope, a window that opened, an application process created by the federal government flowing through the provincial government. There are dollars available, and it looks like this ask may qualify. And it is my hope that at this point, all we're asking for is asking administration to research the application, to do its homework, to come back at some other point for approval to make that application. So this isn't to make the application. This is for asking administration to prepare an application for your approval or disapproval at a future point in time. This, I think, is important because there is a window that's opening, or has been opened, and some of the discussion around this item has been, how are we going to pay for it? Well, this may be a recent opportunity that we can say, This is an opportunity. This is how we're going to pay for it. Let's find out. Let's also find out if it's going to affect our past and current relationship with the federal government, with the current funding arrangement we have for this project and other projects. Let's find out. Let's have those conversations. And let's, if it does, then we know. If it doesn't, then we have a decision in front of us. But that conversation took place at least 3 years ago. And things may have changed since then. So let's see. Let's find out. So this motion, with your support, all it's asking, because the federal government, again, put out an ask, not for recreation, not for other things, but it looks like, after some research at the library level, that a library may qualify. So I'm asking for your approval to ask administration to create a report to come back to us for the next step. Thank you for letting me be here tonight.
Okay, has this come from the library board, or is this coming from you personally?
So this has been discussed at the library board for the last 4 to 5 years.
Is there a motion, yes or no, please? Is there a motion from the library board? Or is it your personal request?
No, Mr. Mayor, it's not my personal. This has been a direction through the strategic planning at the library board. At the last motion, at the last library meeting, a motion was passed to ask the director to research if the library qualifies for this envelope.
Yeah, the director. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Just confirming some facts. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll prompt the question. Okay, voting is now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, public forum, we have nothing. So what I'm going to do before I close the meeting, I'm going to start Ward 1 and go all the way around the room so you get an opportunity to get up and wish your constituencies the best. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I would like to wish a Merry Christmas to absolutely everyone, especially our frontline workers and how hard they work each and every year, especially through the holiday season. Thank you.
Councillor Zapp?
Happiest of holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas in the city of Prince Albert and happy holidays, of course, but more especially to my favorite ward, Ward 3.
Councillor Cody?
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Whether you're in Ward 4 or you're throughout the city, it doesn't matter to me very much, but certainly to the Ward 4 people particularly. But Merry Christmas, and may the season treat you well. Stay safe out there. It's a tough world out there, and stay as safe as you can, and do a good favor to your neighbor. Your neighbors are important to you, as we are important to you, and you are important to us. Have a Merry Christmas, and unless I have an opportunity other than that, to say Happy New Year as well.
Councillor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to wish, or first of all, thank our administration and the employees of the City of Prince Albert for their dedicated service over the past year. Without administration's leadership in all of our various departments, our employees wouldn't be able to provide all of the services that they do to the citizens of Prince Albert. So thank you for that. Also, I would like to wish our staff and, of course, the residents of Prince Albert a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And my only wish is that everybody just be a little bit kinder to one another during this season.
Very good point. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'll echo everybody's comments. Merry Christmas to all of administration and staff at the City of Prince Albert. Merry Christmas to our media who are sitting here today. And Merry Christmas to all of you guys that are sitting here. All of my colleagues around the table, really appreciate working with you. I hope everybody has a happy new year. I really like the team we have going here. It's good. The administration is coming forward with great reports. So, and working with this group right now over the past year has been a great thing for me. So thank you. Happy New Year.
Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm really pleased to be wishing the residents of my favorite ward, Ward 7, and the rest of the residents of City of Prince Albert, health and peace in 2022. Our community's strength is its rich history of embracing diversity and our ability to overcome adversity by recognizing everyone's gift and everyone's value. At this time, it seems sometimes that we're moving far apart, but I've been privileged in this position to witness the grace and the giving of so many in our community, and I choose to focus on that instead. My wish is that we're all able to take a moment to breathe and listen to each other with our hearts. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas to everyone in our community, and let's continue to make Prince Albert the city where everyone is welcome.
Councillor Zirakowski.
Well, I mean, that was great. I should stop right there because I'm
Absolutely. I can't beat that.
But you know I won't. So.
No.
I would like to send a heartfelt Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody in this room. You know, to the elected, to the administration, we spend so much time together, and there's so much passion in this room. It really does make me excited. I honestly have not worked with a better team than we have now. And I'm really excited about moving forward with this team and getting a lot done for our residents. The teacher in me has to pause and say, with those high expectations comes higher expectations. So I think that's a path that I'm willing to travel with everyone in this room. So I am pretty excited about that. I would like to wish the residents of West Hill and all the residents of Prince Albert a very Merry Christmas. I hope that you're able to find, peace and happiness and prosperity and in the new year over Christmas holidays. And I invite you to check in on your neighbor, especially if you're lucky enough to have a senior on your block. In a COVID-friendly way, check in on them. If you see it snow and there's still snow on the sidewalk the next day and it usually gets brushed off, maybe check in on them, make sure everything's okay, because that's one of the strengths of our community. And we're excited. That's why we live here. We're big enough and small enough to be able to do that. So Merry Christmas to everybody in this room and administration and the elected. Merry Christmas to the mayor for your leadership over the past year. And Merry Christmas to our frontline workers. I think Councillor Miller said it very well. I always remember the first time I saw those folks up to their kneecaps in water when it was minus 33 out. And they're there providing that service for us every single day. And so Merry Christmas to them.
Boy, you guys didn't leave me much left to say. So I'm going to say just a little different message. And my message is the gift of thank you. And who I'm talking to is the hospital workers that will still be there while we're home with our children, to the police, the fire, the ambulances, the emergency services, to say thank you to them. Because when we're home celebrating, they're going to make sure that we're safe, and if we need them, that we're available. And the best thing I can ask in the closing remarks is give a gift of kindness. We have lots of people in our community in need, and if you do have a little bit of extra, reach out and give it to them, because I know they will appreciate it and say thank you. Because we are a great community, and we're a diverse community, and we'll stand together, and by doing that, we will succeed and overcome our problems. So with that, everyone, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Councillor Kilmer. Second. Councillor Bodnik, we're adjourned. All in favor? Thank you, Councillor Zepp.
Yes. Thank you very much.